everyone, my name is Sydney Hoffman, and today we're going to be doing the exploratory presentation for World Civ. I decided to screen record instead of doing it through the PowerPoint way. I think that should be fine though. So starting off with comparing and contrasting two ancient great civilizations, I'm going to be doing the ancient Roman Empire and the Tang Dynasty. So one difference right off the bat is the Tang Dynasty only lasted about 300 years, as where the ancient Roman Empire lasted 1,000 years. The ancient Roman Empire started in central Italy near their Tiber River, and it grew into most of Europe, Britain, Western Asia, Northern Africa, and the Mediterranean islands. And then the Tang Dynasty, of course, started in China and stretched its territory from the Korean Peninsula into the east, to the steppes of Mongolia of the north, and present-day Afghanistan in the west, and northern Vietnam to the south. The Roman Empire used a more conquered approach and took over lands that way. However, once they conquered you, it was pretty easygoing. You just had to follow the rules. And by easygoing, I mean they viewed them as equals, but they definitely had to be conquered first. And for the Tang Dynasty, they recruited people who surrendered to them. For both nations, women were seen as less than men. The ancient Roman Empire at their time was the largest empire in history, and the Tang Dynasty became the largest nation in the world at their time. So regarding some of the things that they accomplished in the ancient Roman Empire, they had these curved archways that have become a foundation in a lot of Western architecture that we see today, like all those pillars and things like that. They also had Roman aqueducts, which were considered like engineering marvels that were used for a very long time. They had very sophisticated systems of roads. That's where we have the term all roads lead to Rome. And they laid the foundation for the modern legal system that we use today. Some of the things that the Tang Dynasty accomplished in their shorter reign, they created the first comprehensive criminal code, which is really awesome because it didn't put everything on the same level. Different mistakes or different people who broke different rules had different punishments. It wasn't all the same punishment. And they created some of the best poetry that has ever been made. They created the first earliest dated printed book, which is in that picture right there. And they made better forms of gunpowder and porcelain. So what made a great civilization at that time? There's a lot of things that go into it, and we'll go into it more in the next few slides. But part of it is location, writing, trading, art, monuments, and science and technology. And let's kind of jump into that. So talking about location, there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. First off, of course, you need access to food. You need access to water. You need access to animals. But you also need something to cultivate, to trade. You know, that could be wheat, it could be animals, it could be fur, it could be iron and copper, whatever it is, you need something that you're able to use to trade with other nations, and you need availability to trade with other nations. And I think most importantly, it's also protection. That's why I added this picture, and we're talking about China. So China is a great example of a place where you have protection from any potential invaders or, angry mobs of bad people. So in China, we have the coastline. People have to go across the ocean to get to you there, so that's not very likely. You have the desert up north, so people have to go through miles and miles of the desert. That's not good. And then you have the Himalayan mountains off to the side, and that takes a lot of work to get through those mountains. And you're not going to get a huge army of people going through the mountains. It's only going to be a couple people because most of them are going to die or go through some issues. So they're very well protected, and that's very important. It's probably what allowed them to last so long. And of course, with writing and art, there could be a million great civilizations in the world, but nobody's ever going to hear about it unless you write and unless you create art, something that will last forever, and that where people can get an idea of what life was like there, what the lives of these people were like. And art's really important because it really gives character to different nations. Like China and the Roman Empire both have a lot of art, but they're very different. And that creates character, that creates uniqueness. So I think that creates a great civilization. And of course, science and technology. I added this picture because I think it gives a simple, basic idea of why technology is so important. You know, we see them starting to make hand axes in the Stone Age, but how do we get to having guns and grenades and nuclear bombs? It all started here, you know, it's little by little technology, and that goes with everything, you know, architecture, with aqueducts, with, you know, leading to plumbing. There's so many different things, and every nation has sort of, you know, worked a little bit at this and aided in the effort of advancing in science and technology. So it's really, really important. However, what makes a great civilization today? I think when it comes to making a great civilization today, it's a lot of the same things, but it's a step further now. We've evolved past basic necessities, and we have, you know, more things that are required. Of course, we have freedom and equity and justice and morality, but I put down the word flexibility because as a nursing student, I think being able to be flexible with different issues is really important, and having creativity to deal with those issues is also important. I put down governmental aid because that's what I think a great civilization does. You know, it helps its people in need. Education is extremely important. I think everyone deserves the right to free healthcare. If we're thinking of a great civilization, they're going to have great healthcare, right? I think they're incredibly gracious towards other people and other nations and very forgiving, and, you know, of course, great architecture. How does this differ from the Tang Dynasty and the Roman Empire? Well, first of all, as a woman, I like the idea of having equal rights with everyone else around me, so I would say that differs from my definition of a great civilization compared to then. I also think free healthcare. The Tang Dynasty and the Roman Empire did actually have some free healthcare, but all the times it was for soldiers or it was for the people who had money. It's kind of it's a little bit close to what it's like now, but definitely think that we have some things to thank the Tang Dynasty and the Roman Empire. You know, they laid out a lot of morality and justice in their law system. So I thought that is important. So those are some of the same qualities. And so yeah, I think that concludes my presentation, and thank you for listening. I appreciate you and your time, and hope you have a wonderful evening.